We saw in the previous video how all of the network devices were connected to a single switch. This is a flat network, also known as a two-tier network topology, where a single switch acts as the central connection point. This is great for small to medium-sized organizations that require scalability and high network performance, as there are a less number of hops between devices, and devices can be added or removed from the network by simply connecting them to the central switch, but it's not so great for redundancy, security, or flexibility, as the central switch is a single point of failure, a single point of connectivity, and all devices are connected to a single switch. If the switch is compromised or fails, then the entire network can be affected. Next, we move on to the most famous one, the three-tier network topology, which separates the network into three layers: the access layer, the distribution layer, and the core layer. Each layer has a specific function and is interconnected to at least one of the other layers, making it scalable, redundant, more secure, and flexible. It's scalable because new devices can be added to the access layer without affecting the core network, redundant as there are multiple paths for traffic to travel between devices, secure for the fact that devices are isolated in different layers, preventing unauthorized access, and flexible for the same reason. However, this also means that a three-tier design is more complex to administer and performance can be reduced because of the additional devices and layers required. If you're going to run a three-tier topology, realistically, you're going to need some high-performance switches and routers. The spine-leaf network topology uses two layers of switches. The spine layer is made up of high-performance switches, while the leaf layer is made up of access switches that the endpoints connect to. With the prevalence of east-west traffic, which is when traffic moves from server to server within the same data center, then a spine-leaf topology is becoming more popular as it is more optimal than the traditional three-tier architecture as traffic goes through fewer hops. Alongside this, spine-leaf topologies are better performing, highly scalable, redundant, and flexible. The main downside with spine-leaf topologies are that they are generally more complex than other network topologies and more expensive than other network topologies due to the need for high-performance spine switches. A wide area network is a network that spans over a large geographical area and over long distances that often uses public infrastructure to transmit data. WANs are usually much slower than LANs, and because they use a public infrastructure, not as reliable as a LAN either, they are also more expensive to set up and maintain. Now, because a WAN spans over a large geographical area, then it is susceptible to high latency, and also due to it running over public infrastructure, you need to utilize robust security measures such as encryption and authentication to protect the data. A small office/home office, SOHO, network topology is a network architecture designed for small businesses or individuals that work from home. Typically, SOHO networks consists of less than 10 computers. It usually comprises of a single small factor device that has switch ports, acts as a router, and has wireless access point antennae built in. So in summary, a SOHO network has a simple setup, only has a limited number of devices connected, are cost-effective and easy to manage, but have limited scalability and limited security features. On-premise network. This is when the company owns and manages all the hardware and software required to run the network infrastructure. This can be a problem as setting up an on-premise network requires a lot of initial capital to acquire and maintain the hardware and software and can be expensive to upgrade. However, since the infrastructure is owned and managed by the organization, security can be more tightly controlled and there's a higher level of control over what happens with the devices. Cloud network. When an organization leases their infrastructure, which is owned and managed by a cloud service provider, they access these devices over the internet, which means the company doesn't have to purchase and maintain the hardware, which is much less expensive, and infrastructure can be easily scaled up or down if necessary without the need for expensive hardware upgrades. However, the organization has limited control over the network, and although cloud service providers often have strong security measures in place, the company has limited control over this. Now, it's question time. 1. When all devices are connected to a single switch, this is known as A. Spine and leaf. B. Three-tier. C. Solo network. D. Flat network. The answer is D. 2. A two-tier network suffers from a lack of A. MAC addresses, B. Redundancy, C. Connections, D. All of the above. The answer is B. 3. From the bottom up, what are the components of a three-tier network topology? A. Access, distribution, core, B. Distribution, core, access, C. Spine, branch, leaf, D. Leaf, spine, branch, E. None of the above. The answer is A. 4. How many layers of switches are present in a normal spine and leaf topology? A1, B2, C3, D4. The answer is B. 5. What is east-west traffic? A. When traffic moves from server to internet. B. When traffic moves from server to server. C. When traffic moves from internet to server. D. When traffic transits the switches without touching any endpoints. The answer is B. 6. What is an advantage of a spine/leaf topology over a traditional three-tier topology? A. Traffic passes through less hops. B. Cheaper to operate. C. Easier to configure. D. No need for high-performance switches. The answer is A. 7. Which statement is not true about a WAN? A. WANs use public infrastructure. B. WANs are often slower than LANs. C. WANs use private infrastructure. D. WANs are usually expensive to set up and maintain. E. WANs span across a wide geographical area. The answer is C. 8. What does SOHO stand for? A. Small office, home office. B. Suburban office, highway office. C. Solo organization, hybrid organization. D. SOHO is not an acronym, it's an organization. The answer is A. 9. What are 3 benefits of a cloud network over an on-premise network? A. The company doesn't have to own and maintain the hardware. B. Security can be more tightly controlled. C. Infrastructure can easily be scaled up without the need for expensive hardware upgrades. D. Much less initial expenditure/cost. E. There's a higher level of control with what happens with the devices. The answer is A, C, and D.